Hello and welcome to This Is. We have officially been pixelated.
Whoa. You can tell this is a serious video because I got my laptop on the table because we're gonna go deep. So a few days ago, the Pixel was officially unveiled, although of course it has been leaked thoroughly for many months beforehand. The Pixel 8 is a decent update, I will say. It feels like they're taking a lot of steps forward to quite literally round off the sharp edges. The whole thing is just more round. But
same.
I saw a really interesting interview that Rick Osterloh did with Mr. Mobile. He hit him with a bunch of really interesting questions about like, hey, where's the flip? Hey, why aren't you selling in more countries? Really well worth the watch.
Yeah.
But it got me thinking about the actual sort of thought process behind Pixel, because this is the 8th generation of Pixels. And of course they had the Nexuses before that, but Pixel was kind of like the real reset.
And then that's the thing is, I miss the Nexuses. I felt that the Nexus was fun. One, there was like the air of mystery, because again, if we leak everything, then when stuff comes out, there's no mystery whatsoever. But with the Nexus, it's like, all right, who's gonna make the phone?
There's a variety of hardware.
It was like almost like a completely different phone. It was like, now there was pros and cons to that. I feel like every year we've gone like, oh, the Pixel kind of sucked, then it was really good, then it kind of sucked.
Well, they had some teething problems, the early Pixels. But I guess the fundamental question I want to ask for this video: is the Pixel doing enough? Now that might sound...
I would argue no.
Okay, there's my argument right there. This is not a new brand. You know, when Pixel first came out, I think we were all willing to kind of forgive some of the rougher edges, forgive some of the like, oh, well, they're getting there. But we're well into the 7th year and the 8th generation of Pixels. We have the Pro, we have the standard Pixel, we have the A series. Not only that, it's also expanded into a ton of accessories. We've got the Pixel Watch, we've got the Buds. Like, the Pixel ecosystem, I think, is pretty well baked at this point. I don't think it's fair to give Google, one of the richest companies on earth, a pass for their hardware division anymore, right? Like, I think we have to review these things. We have to sort of comment on them as competition with everyone else. We can't just give them the pass like, oh, well, they're getting there. Oh, we love Google. Like, we've got to be a little bit more harsh on these. The Pixel 8 and the 8 Pro both have a $100 price increase. The 8 does have some decent upgrades. The cameras are also improved this year. So the Pro gets a 5X as well as the better ultra wide, but even the standard 8 does have that massive chunky 50 megapixel camera. And the 8 also now has a 120 hertz display, which I think is legitimately nice. Not that the 90 hertz was bad on the last phone. It does feel like when you look at the two phones, the Pixel 8, you're getting a pretty decent step up over the last generation, which I can kind of understand the $100 price increase. What's a little bit more difficult to justify is the $100 price increase on the Pro. Now, I want to say this to be clear. I'm not saying that Pixel have to sell at budget pricing to get market hold, even though that's kind of what they've had to do at this point, right?
I am going to say that, because that was like kind of the promise of the Pixel line, is flagship specs for mid-range pricing.
Yeah.
And Google, again, like you said, being the one of the richest companies in the world, they could kind of offset that. Because again, the whole idea of this is to get you using more Google products. Oh, it's supposed to be like, this is the best way to use these things, which then obviously they can feed you more ads on their various services, and then they make that the way they make their money. Why do I give Samsung and why do I give Apple a pass on that? It's their hardware, not advertisers.
Sure, it's a different business model.
Yeah, but like to compare just the hardware of these phones, I'm like, oh, well, Samsung and Apple are having $1,000 smartphones too. I mean, they have app stores, but so does Google.
Are you arguing that the Pixel should be a little cheaper just because you're getting that full googly experience, so that you should be saving a little bit of money?
Not that it should.
They don't really need to make a lot of money on the hardware, whereas like obviously Apple and Samsung need
like
more.
I think if they came back and said like, oh, here's this phone and it's $150 less or $200 less than what it is right now, I don't think that would hurt them that much.
I have a couple thoughts here.
Yeah.
I will say, if you are interested in a Pixel 8, there actually is a promo going on. Actually, Best Buy has it. I'll have a link in the description, where you actually can get yourself a free Pixel Watch with the 8 Pro or Pixel Buds with the 8, which actually does remove some of the stings. It's like a couple $100.
That's a really good bundle.
Yeah, that's pretty solid. So if you want to check that out, we'll have a link in the description. It's an affiliate link. But if you want to, the other thing that's a little bit more of more like a philosophical concern I have is that I feel like the Pixel line isn't where it should be. My main concerns are that if you are outside the US, the Pixel experience isn't really as full-featured. A ton of countries do not have the Pixel. You think about the Pixel being like a global brand. You can't really make it, oh, it's really good in the US and it's decent everywhere else, and then, oh, good luck, you have to import it. So that's one concern. Does the Pixel line need more investment? It feels like Google are like half in on this, but do they need to actually like really dedicate the more time, more money? Does Google need to like cut the Pixel team like a fat check and say, hey, here's 3 years. Go out and actually crush it. Don't do this like sort of in this little baby steps all over the world. It feels like they're not moving fast enough and they're gonna be left behind.
Let me be nefarious. Do they care about any of those markets outside the US? This is gonna be counteractive to my entire argument of like they can subsidize these phones, whatever. But like any Android phone, they're getting a cut on. The Play Store, that's where they're making their money on this and stuff like that.
Yep.
So like we see how expensive iPhones get with taxes, tariffs, and all this stuff. A lot of people just don't, like they just think that the companies are charging more for the phones. I'm not gonna pretend like I'm a global economist here, but like if it costs a company X to make a phone, that's what they need to charge for it to make whatever. And then when you have, taxes and tariffs, the company still needs to make their money on it. So like if it's a 40% tax and tariff, which happens in a lot of countries, suddenly a $1,000 phone is $1,400. What a lot of consumers say is, why is Google or Apple or Samsung charging me $1,400 for this phone? Do they care about like trying to carry the stigma of being like, oh, I'm a $1,400 phone?
So is it almost like you think that Google has like iPhone-itis, where they only care about selling hardware to the premium affluent customers in some select countries around the world?
I don't even think it's an affluent thing. I think it's just I just think they could write a fat check and have this go global, but like it's not just making a phone for these other, it's marketing. When your main money market is ad revenue and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Do you think the CPMs on other markets are enough for them to be like, oh yeah, we like need to push everything? Or are they just happy to say, you know what? We have our market here, which is very easy to get into. We're doing just enough here, and then we're happy to let every other Android brand do the marketing for us.
The less profitable markets.
In my theoretical model here, they don't care about these other markets. I agree with you then that they're not doing enough in the US.
So I will say the Google Pixel line is growing. It's one of the only smartphones that are actually brands that are growing in the US. That's not nothing. That's certainly not nothing.
I think they could absolutely demolish Samsung, and I like
what?
Yeah,
hold on.
yeah.
What, how? Across the board, how many phones they have?
Right,
how
but
many discounts they have?
But with Google, it doesn't matter because this like the hardware side is such a small part of their revenue.
But you're talking about burning like billions of dollars to try to kick Samsung off. Why would they when Samsung already has Android and like they're making the money from Android anyway? Like, is there really an incentive for Google in the Pixel line to go really, really aggressive when they have all their OEMs who they're essentially competing with, right?
Well, I guess the double-edged sword of that is why do they even bother with the hardware at all?
Because they want to have a voice in the conversation. They want to drive sort of what the ideal thing is. Look at the Surface, right? The Surface has been around for what, like 10 years at this point. And while I love Surfaces, I will say that it does feel like Microsoft have a sort of similar thought and that they compete, but they don't compete a little too hard with all of their OEMs. Because again, that's like me on the main channel saying, hey, I'm gonna make 17 videos a week and I'm gonna destroy This Is. I could do that, but then that would be really dumb because then that's like, you know what I'm saying? Like, obviously they're making investments. It's not like a Pixel line is just like floating in the wind.
But it feels like they're making a weird amount of investment. The best announcement we haven't talked about yet from Pixel 8 is 7 years of OS support. It's not security updates, it's OS update. The problem with saying, oh, we're going to give you 7 years of updates, we're going to get to a point, and I feel like pretty rapidly, where a lot of the actual features that they're trying to put into Android right now, specifically on the Pixel line, is not going to be able to be handled.
I completely agree. 3-4 years from now, your Pixel will still be getting updates, but all the fancy, shiny new tools are going to be exclusive.
The real benefit is that like you're still going to have an active Play Store and not one that like shut down.
We're also going to have a phone that has security updates. Like for me, I would not use a phone. As soon as it stops getting updates, I'm not using that phone as my daily. I just don't trust my stuff on there. I will say though, coming back to my slightly nebulous argument about Pixel, and again, I feel like I'm being a little bit harsh on this. Like it's a really cool phone.
Where do you want them to go?
It just feels like they're slightly in the middle in a few different ways. Take the Tensor G3, right? This is a brand new chip. The Tensor processors are basically just Exynos processors that have a little bit of Google sprinkled on. These first 2-3 generations are largely just off-the-shelf things that they're just slightly customizing. But at some point, they are going to be fully custom.
About that. They're going to look at like a Samsung and an iPhone and the Pixel here and say, oh, 5x telephoto. Like they can quantify that number. They're going to go to Best Buy and some pimple-faced kid, it used to be me, is going to be like, oh, you should just get this one because it's cheaper. If you can get the price down you're gonna sell more of these. I think they're moving away from the one thing that made them be able to break into the market in the first place.
I actually do kind of agree with that, because coming back to the Exynos thing, right? The tensor chip. The tensor chip is fine, and obviously we're recording this before the reviews are out and all the benchmarks and stuff. It seems very clear that it's still a bit of a mid system on a chip, which when you compare it to what you're getting on like the Snapdragon stuff, it's just not quite as good. So it's like you're paying on the Pixel 8 Pro $1,000. You're getting something which is largely flagship and not quite in every single way. And that to me just is like, when it comes to charging $1,000 for a flagship, you don't get any free passes. You need to execute really well in every single way. When you look at the iPhone 15 Pro, that is a very complete package. When you look at the Samsung S23, that is a complete package. I'm not saying that the Pixel 8 Pro or even the Pixel 8 is not a very competent package, but you need to execute across the board. And when you're raising the price, especially on that Pro, you're raising the price and it's not a massive upgrade over the 7 Pro. That's where I have a little bit of an issue. And that's where I kind of question somewhat. Again, somewhat. This is not like Pixel's garbage, it's on fire, or whatever, but like it just makes me question a little bit about how much of Google's heart is really in the Pixel line. And do they have the motivation to really put the fuel on the fire to push this thing to the next level, to properly compete with Samsung and with Apple and all the other OEMs who they may have a vested interest in even wanting to compete with in the first place?
I just think you can't magically make technology appear. It's easy to be like, oh, just put a better camera in there, put a better,
iterate.
like whatever. They still have to develop this,
Totally.
which takes time and whatnot.
And the cameras are
But,
great.
Look, the camera software is what's kept them afloat for years.
For
Because
the first few years, that was you buy a
if-
Pixel because of the camera.
If their software wasn't where it was, they would have been dead a long time ago.
I agree with that.
But like, it's gonna take time to develop a better chip. Now, yeah, we're in the 3rd generation, but like, I think they're losing out on their market share foothold. If they can't compete with pure power and performance, they have to compete with price.
I agree with that.
And like, that's something they can do. They can flip on a switch and be like, we have to give the Pixel team a fat check to go try and push this. I think the like $100 gazillion that they would have to do to go do that would be better spent just saying, you know what? We're gonna subsidize this. Create in any phone, whether it works or not, and we'll give you $200 off.
Yeah.
They know that they're gonna eat that money regardless. If they can get some phones in the process, they can then go ahead and turn around and say, okay, we're gonna recycle these, get a big fat tax credit. That's something the company can do right now. This is hypothetical. Pixel 8 Pro at $799. Imagine a Pixel 8 at $499.
Oh.
Like,
It was great at $599.
right,
last
but
year.
like, name one person that wouldn't say the Pixel 8 at $499 if that was the case.
That's what everyone said over the last couple of years with the Pixels at $599. Now they're at $699. I still think that they're probably pretty solid, but it's no longer that no-brainer recommendation that they used to have. So I
Right.
just think they
But,
need
like,
to be careful with this, right? Because
it's-
they had a really good strategy that was working. I'm a little bit more okay with it on the 8 because the 8 does seem like it's gotten a pretty sizable upgrade compared to the Pro, right? So I will give them that the 8 does look solid. And of course, they've got these pre-order deals. Check those out in the description. You also can just hang tight because these will likely go on sale in like 6 months or whatever, like they
Of
typically
course
do.
they will.
But every phone does, right? That's not like anything new.
I feel like we're agreeing with each other just in different ways. Like,
Yeah.
they're not doing enough.
Yep.
But like, I think we just differ on the strategy. What do you think Pixel should be doing? Should they go to every country in the world?
Invest all their money in a Pixel Fold. Flip. I said flip. There, I did the fold. Flip, please.
Fold, which was $1,800.
Yeah, make a flip. That's
So
$899, and I will buy 7.
I'm holding you to that. Like, follow, subscribe. If you want to know more, check out the links in the description, and we'll catch you in the next one.